Welcome to the second to last segment, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot about the freestyle. It's kind of crooked with freestyle. Badass women in Herstory. That's better. Sigrid the Haughty, or Haughty. It's Haughty. She was probably a hottie, Hotti. She was a Viking, and I just did a little clip of Thera, which I did a while back, another Viking queen, and I've been watching Vikings. So I was like, fuck it, let me look up the other famous Vikings that the sagas mention. So Sigrid the Haughty, she was consort of Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and England. So that's the North Sea dynasty right there. Which I think Canute was the first one to start that. I'm not sure. Because it doesn't say what day, years, I don't know where I got this from. Oh, shit. Alright, fuck, let me read it. It's pretty interesting. Also known as Sigrid Storada, that's what the Swedes call her, Storada, is a Scandinavian queen appearing in Norse sagas. Sigrid is named in several late and sometimes contradictory Icelandic sagas composed generations after the events they describe. But there's no reliable historical evidence correlating to her story as they describe her. See, the Vikings, they didn't used to write a lot, but eventually somebody who was chilling in Iceland was like, I ain't doing shit, and I know how to write, and I need to write down these stories. And thankfully they did, because otherwise we wouldn't know shit about them. She is reported by Heimskringla to have been wife of Eric the Victorious, what a name, of Sweden, sought as wife by Olaf Tryggvason. Then married to Svein Forkbeard of Denmark. Wow. But elsewhere, author Snorri Sturluson says that Svein was married to a different woman. We could have had two wives. Obviously, they didn't watch Vikings. It is unclear if the figure of Sigrid was a real person. Some recent scholars identify her with the documented Polish wife of Eric, and perhaps Svein, mentioned by medieval chroniclers and referred to as Swatostawa by some modern historians, but the potential husbands attributed to Sigrid lived over a wide date range, and other modern scholars believe Sigrid may be an amalgamation of several historical women. Anyway, let's see. Sigrid appears in the 12th century saga Igmar's saga, which, when speaking of Swedish King Eric the Victorious, says he married Sigrid the Proud and separated from her because of her difficult moods, for she was the most quarrelsome woman there ever was. He gave her Gotland. Their son was Olaf the Swede. She also receives brief mention in the genealogical appendix to Harvara saga, which likewise, when discussing Eric, states that he married Sigrid the Ambitious. This appendix is not found in the earlier surviving manuscripts of the saga, rendering its dating uncertain. Accounts given in the Heimskringla and Separate saga. Using earlier sagas as its sources, Snorri Sturluson gives a much more detailed amount of Sigrid in several sagas within his 13th century compilation. So this is in the 1200s when he's writing it, and all this went down. Like in the Viking era was like the early 800s. I mean late 700s to early 10,000s, early 1000s. Because they say about 1066 was the end of the Viking Age, when coincidentally enough, a descendant of a Viking conquered England. All right, so using earlier sagas as his sources. Oh wait, he gives a much more detailed account of Sigrid in several sagas within his 13th century compilation, the Heimskringla. He first introduces her in Harald's saga, where he describes the upbringing of the Norwegian prince Harald Grenske, who fled to Sweden and joined the raiding band of Skagler Toss, described as the richest and most distinguished untitled man in the country, and staying with him the following winter. The saga then relates that Toss had a daughter Sigrid, who was young, fair, and very haughty, who later married, I gotta look that up, what that fucking means, who later would marry Swedish King Eric the Victorious and become mother of King Olaf the Swede. Snorri returns to Harald and Sigrid, returns to Harald and Sigrid in the next saga, in the Heimskringla, Olaf saga, Drigvasonar, now a wealthy queen, dowager, and mother of King Olaf, and described by Snorri as the wisest of women and prophetic about many things. She learns that her foster brother Harald is nearby on his way to raid in the Baltic Sea, and she invites him to a banquet, and afterwards personally serves him in his chamber. However, Harald took offense the next day when she favorably compared her own possessions and power in Sweden to his in Norway, leaving Harald sullen in spite of the great gift she gave him. After stewing over this for a season, Harald again raided the Baltic and visited Sweden on his return. Sending for Sigrid, he proposed that they marry. She dismissed this, pointing out that he already had a wife, Asta, who seemed compatible with him, but he insisted Asta, though noble and good, was not as high-born as he. After further cursory words, Sigrid rode away, and Harald again turned sullen before deciding to ride to her home to press his case. Taking a large body of men, he arrived to find another suitor also present, a king called Visavalder from Gariargi. Hold on, I'm going to look up how to say this. And there's something else I was going to look up, but I don't remember what it was. Let's see. I want you. I got actually highlighted. There you go. Copy. Pasting. It is wasting time. People don't want to hear you waste their time. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I'm looking how to say this word. Dang it. Yo, Google is better in a lot of ways than DuckDuckGo. I'm sorry to say. DuckDuckGo, you gotta DuckDuckGo. Oh, give a fuck, bro. Wait, what? This time I'm gonna search with Google. Maybe they'll have a cool doodle. Yeah. It's a lady dancing to a disco ball. It's a weird color disco ball. It looks like the Death Star. Interesting. Okay, I thought it would just fucking be easy. I thought I would just fucking, just fucking be easy. And it's not. It's not at all. Wait, maybe this is. Oh, it looks like a D. That Garadariki. Alright, and what was the other thing I was gonna look up? Maybe I could look up how to say this one too. Garadariki. This one I think I'm right, because I've been reading some stuff about. What? Oh, because of the period maybe? Okay, well, why don't y'all have this word? Y'all got that word. I guess because this one's not Icelandic. Fuck DuckDuckGo. Y'all better DuckDuckGo. you already know. I just put porn. I mean, pronunciates Pro. For people who are dyslexic and accidentally write porn instead of pronunciation. How to pronounce. Let's listen.
Tryggvason.
Well, let's hear somebody else.
Tryggvason.
No, I don't like it.
Tryggvason.
Tryggvason, I guess. Anyway, guys, that's not what I was gonna look up earlier. What was I gonna look up? All right. Anyways, all right. So we're back to the story where there was two dudes trying to gain her hand. A king, Visavalder from Gardariki. Both were housed in the same quarters and served large quantities of drink, and in the night she had her people set fire to the structure and kill anyone who made it out, declaring that this should prevent other petty kings from coming to her country to seek her hand. Snorri says that from therefore she was called Sigridor, or in Storada, Sigrid of the Great Undertakings. Very nice. Later in the same saga, Snorri related Sigrid's wooing by Olaf Tryggvason, the king of Norway. After exchanging messages, Olaf proposed they marry, and Sigrid agreed. In commemoration of this, Olaf sent her a great gold ring he had taken as a prize. But Sigrid's goldsmith discovered it only cold-plated brass, and this made Sigrid question his truthfulness. Then, when Olaf and Sigrid met in person, he insisted that in order to marry, she must convert to Christianity, in which she responded, "I shall not abandon the faith that I have previously held, as have my kinsmen before me. I shall also make no objection to your believing in whatever God you like." In a rage, Olaf struck her with the glove, and Sigrid calmly told him, "That could well cost you your life." And they parted. After relating several of Olaf's subsequent activities, he returns to Sigrid, indicating that after the death of Gunhild, daughter of Borislav of the Winds and the wife of Sven Forkbeard, king of Denmark, the Danish king had married Sigrid, daughter of Skogler Tost, and through this relationship, an alliance was formed between Sven and her son, Olaf of Sweden, along with Sven's son-in-law, Jarl Alikr Hakanarsson. Olaf had further offended the Danish king through the action of Sven's sister, Tiri, sent against her will to marry Borislav in fulfillment of a provision of the same treaty that had seen Sven marry his first wife. Borislav's daughter, Gunhild, Tiri, fled to Norway after the wedding and there married Olaf. The two queens then goaded their husbands into conflict. This shared animosity will lead to the Battle of Swold, in which Olaf fell. I'm confused about all that. Sigrid does not appear in the next saga, in the Heimskringla Olaf saga, but is mentioned in a related text by Snorri, a standalone account of the same monarch, now commonly called the separate saga of Saint Olaf. This mentioned her while giving similar accounts of Harold Grensky to those found in Harold saga and Olaf saga, with the only novel information being another passage relating to marriage between Olaf Tryggvason's sister Ingibjorg and Sigrid's nephew Jarl Ragnvald, son of her brother Ulf. Sigrid makes one further brief appearance in the Heimskringla in Magnus' saga. There she is described as mother of Estrid's Finnsdottir, the paternal half-sister of Canute the Great and maternal half-sister of Swedish King Olaf. So she's got, you know what I'm saying, she's got royal blood. I gotta look at this, make sure it's still recorded. All right, we are go-go. I'll be in here. We probably did her scratching shit. Other appearances. The Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus has similar information as, so this is, Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus. I thought that was just the Saxons that had the Saxo Grammaticus, but maybe it doesn't mean that. Writing that Eric the Victorious' widow, Sigrid, had married Sven Forkbeard after having spurned Olaf Tryggvason. One further point that's been cited in favor of Sigrid's historical existence is that the holdings of the Danish kings in medieval Sweden were known as Sigrid self, the legacy of Sigrid. Interesting. So the holdings of Danish kings in medieval Sweden were known as the legacy of Sigrid. Contemporary chroniclers. There is scant material in medieval chronicles to provide details regarding the marriages of Sven of Denmark and Eric of Sweden. Theotmar of Mersbig mentions that the daughter of Mieszko the First of Poland and the sister of Boleslaw the First Chobry of Poland married Sven Forkbeard and gave him 2 sons. Canute the Great and Harold II of Denmark are the sons, but he does not mention her name. Theotmar is probably the best informed of the medieval chroniclers addressing the question, since he was contemporary with the events described, as well informed about the events in Poland and Denmark. The assertion that Harold's and Canute's mother was Boleslaw's sister may explain some mysterious statements which appear in medieval chronicles, such as the involvement of Polish troops in invasions of England. Adam of Bremen writes about a century later that a Polish princess, the sister or daughter of Boleslaw the First Chobry of Poland, was the wife of Eric the Victorious, and by this marriage the mother of Olaf Skotkonung of Sweden, before she became mother of Canute the Great and Harold II of Denmark in her second marriage with Svein. Adam's claims about the marriage to Eric are considered unreliable by many historians, since he is the only source to state this relationship and because he is writing several generations later. The Scholia of Gesta Hamaberginis Ecclesiae Pontificum mentions that it was the Polish king Boleslaw who gave the princess his hand in marriage. One problem is that Olaf was born at the latest in the 980s, before Boleslaw's Chobry became the power, and therefore was too old to be the unnamed princess's son. During this time, marriages between Nordic monarchs and Vendic nobles was reoccurring for political reasons. For instance, Tove of the Obotrites, daughter of the Vendic lord Mistavage, married King Harold Bluetooth of Denmark in the 960s. Gesta Canutonis Regis mentions in one short passage that Canute and his brother went to the land of the Slavs and brought back their mother who was living there. This does not necessarily mean that his mother was Slavic, but nevertheless this chronicle strongly suggests that she was. Modern reconstructions. There are many alternative reconstructions. Some interpret the saga accounts of Sigrid as a confused rendering of a woman appearing in the historical record. Chronicler Theotmar of Mersburg reported that a daughter of first Duke of Poland's Mieszko the First, unnamed in the original source but hypothesized to have been named Swetslawa by some modern historians, married Sven, and by him was mother of Harold and Canute. While writing slightly later, Adam of Bremen reported that the same Polish princess had earlier married Eric, having Olaf by him. Sigrid could be either a contemporary name adopted by the princess to conform to her new linguistic context, or simply a name invented by saga writers who did not know or could not comprehend her Slavic name. This solution may further make her identical to the woman that the same saga gives us as Sven's first queen, Gunhild, daughter of Burislav, suggested to be a confused rendering of the same historical marriage to the sister of Boleslav of Poland. This is not certain. The attributed Polish marriages of Sven and Eric may have been to different women, with Gunhild being the daughter of Mieszko, while Eric's widow, a distinct princess, may simply have been the dramatic model for Sigrid. Finally, some considered Sigrid to be a fictional character created by Scandinavian saga writers. Archaeology. Further confusion has been introduced by dated interpretations of an archaeological discovery. In 1837, 1835, the Herstory woman was discovered in a peat bog in Jutland. The body of a woman was dated to the 11th century, and it was identified with Sigrid or Gunhild. Radiocarbon dating later proved this dating incorrect, that the remains are much older. However, the erroneous dating became intertwined with numerous episodes of Scandinavian intrigue, as the theory was elaborated to serve a variety of agendas of kings and nobles prior to its redating. In literature, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow composed a poem with the title Queen Sigrid of the Haughty. Queen Sigrid the Haughty, of which is, oh, that's what I wanted to see, what haughty means. That's why I opened up the whole thing. Haughty. Come on, DuckDuck, I don't know why you're there. Bold, scornfully and condescendingly proud, disdainfully or contemptuously proud, arrogant, overbearing, though badass. This is in the first verse. This is the first verse. Queen Sigrid the Haughty sat proud and aloft in her chamber that looked over meadow and croft. Heart's dearest, why dost thou sorrow so? Karen Blixen in the short story The Deluge at Norderney in 7 Gothic Tales refers to Sigrid claiming that she invited all her suitors to her house and burned them in order to discourage other suitors. The story of Sigrid's life, loosely based on the saga materials, is the focus of 2 novels by the Swedish writer and journalist Johan Hildebrandt, Sigrid and its sequel Estrid. Sigrid came out in 2014 and Estrid in 2016. There are 3 novels about the life and times of Sigrid the Haughty, treating her as identical to Svietoslawa, Elizbieta Cherezinka's Harda, or the Haughty, and then Krolowa, which is the Queen. Also, somebody else, Maria Rauska Mikowicz, wrote a book called Daughter of Mieszko the First, Wife, Mother of Scandinavian Kings. So people wrote about her, so I mean, she was intriguing son. Oh, so she was a badass. So, I guess the main thing that stands out is that she burned those 2 dudes that wanted to be her. She was sick of that dude fucking harassing her, asking her to get married. She's like, no, motherfucker. And there was another dude, she was like, you know what? This is gonna keep happening. Let me put a stop to this right now. And then there's a bunch of debate on who she married and who had what kids, but I guess they're saying that she was probably the mom of Canute the Great. And if that's so, Canute the Great is the one that, first got that whole. And then Sven Forkbeard, yeah, because Sven Forkbeard is the mother of Canute the Great. Yeah, interesting. They kind of go into Canute the Great on Viking Valhalla. I mean, that's what it's kind of about whenever he takes over England. Yeah, check that shit out. Have to do a review on that one. Alright, let me look up a beat and then we'll be right back with some motherfucking heat.